Hey everybody, I'm Dan, this is Josh. We're here with Amy for episode 6 of Show Me Your Setup. It's going to be a wonderful tour of Amy's studio and all her cool gear.
Amy is a professional voice talent, and today we get to see her studio setup. And Amy is our first guest on the show. The idea of Show Me Your Setup. Amy, what do you think the idea of Show Me Your Setup is?
So that people can get an idea of what is possible in the realm of home recording studios. Really, you can spend minimal amount of money, or you can spend tens of thousands of dollars.
You went right into it. I was just going to say the idea of the show is for people to come on and show us their setups. And thank you so much for showing us your setup.
Is my mic loud enough for you guys?
It's loud enough for us.
Actually,
It might be that you want to turn it up to have a better volume in the recording overall. We can hear you just fine.
You can hear me just fine because
this
is a new little thing that I made last night.
A new little thing that you made last
ready?
night? This is a portable rig? Are you going to float around?
A recording box!
Oh, check it out. She's in a recording box. That's crazy.
Awesome.
I'm in a recording box.
No
it doesn't
way.
match, but I don't care.
Yeah, right?
So that's a TLM 103
Nice.
with a cable coming out to the Centrance MacBook Pro,
Nice.
and which is a USB onto your computer, and hence you can hear me because I'm actually in the recording box.
Way
now.
better.
Ooh.
See?
Wow.
That's amazing.
Ah.
Oh, my goodness.
So just had some pieces of Orlex around in a
Wow.
box, and I'm like, let me make one of them recording boxes.
Holy banana cakes.
Nice.
Still, though,
long as you can hear
when
me.
you got closer to the mic, it did sound even nicer.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Is there any more gain in that MacBook Pro?
Let's see. This might be
Oh,
blasted.
yeah.
No, that's
No,
cool.
it's
Is that
We
too
like
much?
it. That's nice.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's cool. All right.
I'm going to
Well,
have to
people
wander
blasting
off
you out.
camera now and off everything. I don't know.
Dan showed us the recording box
I'm
in
back.
episode 3. Why did you put one together, Amy?
Well, I just went to Orlando for a voiceover conference, and I didn't bring a rig, and I did, the whole pillow fort thing, which is fine. But this is so easy and small to put in a carry-on. I just might do that next time.
Awesome.
And
Plus, I like making crafts. So
It's because you want to keep working even when you travel. And now you've got something that makes you sound a lot better.
yeah. Oh, definitely.
we didn't even know we were going to talk about the Centrance MacBook Pro today. For those who don't know, it's this little device. It's tiny. It has an XLR connector on one end. It's got all these controls on the other end where you can plug in your USB cable and you can plug in your headphones. It has 48 volt phantom power. I just had to grab this from over there because Amy showed one on screen and I wanted to just hold one right in front of the camera for people.
Yeah.
Those things are awesome.
They really
I've
are.
had that for years.
I hadn't even thought to use this for my portable rig. It's much smaller than the Focusrite, and I wouldn't have to dismantle my desk if I used this. So maybe the next time I go portable, I'm going to use the MacBook Pro because it's A, smaller, B, means I don't have to dismantle anything. So thank you, Amy, for the good tip on how to go portable with a recording box.
One tip though, if you just use this Entrance MacBook Pro, the mic might be too heavy.
2 cables is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw how you had the
You
MacBook
already
Pro
knew what
way
I
on
was
the
gonna
outside
say.
of the box, and that's another great point because the MacBook Pro adds about 5 inches to the length of the microphone, the one it plugs in, so that wouldn't work so well in a recording box with a TLM
It didn't. I tried.
103. Was it a 103?
It's a 103.
Yes, the TLM 103. We like microphones. You can never have too many microphones, folks.
No, you can't.
Amy knows this. She has a bunch. We're going to see them all.
Shall we start by identifying the microphone in your vocal booth? And Amy, are you able to see the picture on screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure. That's a U87, a Neumann also. My favorite mic, and it stays there. It lives there, never moves. I have some automotive clients. They want the same setup 3 months from now as you recorded the donut spot, and then they've got to put their price points in 3 months from now. So they want the same placement, the same levels, the same everything. So I don't move that, and I use that for all the automotive stuff I do and other things. But so that's my go-to mic. It's nice and clean in there sounding. It's deadened. It's great.
I have a question about the mic. How long did it take you to settle on that mic for the rest of your foreseeable, like, professional career? Is that kind of where you're at with the mic at this point?
I think it is. Well, it was a price point thing. I mean, I've always wanted one. I got the TLM 103, which you hear me on now, and that's a great mic too. But I just thought the U87 just was brighter. It just brought out more essence of the voice. I don't know. For me, it sounds great. So that's it. I don't need anything else for now.
Until the next mic comes along.
It's true. It's a habit.
Dan, I think I'll ask Amy about her headphones next, and then why don't you take over, like, about room treatment, because you're going to know so much about this. Amy, what are those headphones, and are they wireless? No, they're not. I see the cable.
They are not wireless, and honestly, they might be Sennheisers, they might be Sony's.
Okay.
There's a real technical reason why I use them.
Yeah.
It had a long enough cord to go through the pass-through. It's not like, oh, these are the headphones. I'm not picky about headphones. Although I do have some Sennheisers. I think, Dan, in one of your episodes, you were talking about these being really tight to your head. Were you saying
I wasn't talking about that particular pair of headphones. I was talking about something.
That was dumb.
I wasn't talking about that particular pair of headphones. I was talking about I don't remember the brand. I meant to look it up in the meanwhile. Ones that say like minus 27 dB on the outside of the headphone, just like sound stoppers or something.
Yeah. Well, these they don't say that. These are Sennheiser HD 280 Pro 62 something. I can't read that, but if I put these on after about 5 minutes, I get a headache.
Right.
So I don't use them. So comfort is important to me, and length of cord. So untechnical, but yeah, I don't know what those are.
Anything else that's important to you about the headphones in your booth? Comfort, long cord, anything else? Or is that kind of...
Yes, actually. The noise that happens when I move my jaw. Like some headphones actually, I move my jaw a lot.
Yeah.
So some headphones actually will
Creak.
make a noise that gets picked up. So if I ever had a pair of those, they're gone. So it's like wearing noisy clothes. You don't wear noisy clothes when you do voiceover.
Or jewelry.
Just learn, or jewelry. Right. There's no fancy earrings on. No. So I just comfort, noise, like extraneous noise.
Silk blouses are off limits in the booth when wearing a cardigan sweater.
Or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. Leather. Pleather.
Things most people don't think
for
about. What do you wear in your booth and why?
That's right.
It's not what I wear, it's what I don't wear.
Exactly.
So one of the things that got me talking to Amy about her setup in general was the extremely low noise floor in her recordings. She would send over audio and I would look at the audio, and I mean, waveforms are waveforms, but then you can look at the spectral image, and the spectral image of her waveforms was beautifully bereft of anything except her voice. It was just Amy's voice and pristine silence. And I said, Amy, why is your audio so clean? What kind of cables are you using? And she said, Dan, I can't tell you the brand of the cable because there is no brand.
I had an engineer friend of mine come over and set up this studio, and he made all the cables by hand, twisted them together, put the connectors on, because he didn't trust the ones you buy at Sam Ash or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with them, but he just wanted to make sure they were clean, and that was one way to do it, by making them yourself.
And that's the level of setup that I can fully appreciate, because I was flabbergasted. I was blown away. I was shocked. I immediately started researching how to make cables. I looked up probably 6 different articles online. I started downloading ideas. And then I said, you know what? I don't really have time for this right now, but someday in the future, I'm going to learn how to make my own cables, because that is some pretty cool trick.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm happy with the sound. People seem to be happy with the sound. So
did your installer take special consideration about routing the cables as well? Keeping certain cables away from other types of cables?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I'm paranoid about things becoming unplugged, so I labeled where everything was plugged in, plus I had young children at the time. So if anything became, unplugged, this goes here, and I could just plug it in because I would have been just lost. I don't know why I don't get any sound. Just plug it back in. Labels. I'm a firm believer in labels.
Which is another handy tip to have for anybody in anyone's setup. At some point in time when everything's working just right, take a picture. Take several pictures and label everything. Therefore, when the inevitable happens, somebody comes along and messes up your gear, you can put it back together in a hurry. That's a really good idea. I was at the high school the other day, and I was hearing about the recent play that went on and how during a evening performance, the lights went out. But all the lights went out. Not the two spotlights on stage. So the actors were able to continue, but all the safety lights, all the lights went out. And people went, what happened? Well, apparently, the entire light board for the entire theater was plugged into a power strip, and somebody kind of swiveled a chair, kicked one cable, and the lights went out for the entire theater.
Oh, my gosh.
But the play went on, and somebody plugged it back in eventually, and the lights came back on. And at that point, we all realized maybe the safety lights shouldn't be that closely integrated to the entire house board, such that if somebody unplugs it, the safety lights go off. But anyways, I digress. Back to the booth. With its lighting, which is fantastic. I like the chandelier. I like all the accent lights around the ceiling. How many of those lights are necessary for reading copy, and how many are just for ambiance?
The chandelier's only been there for like a year, and I just thought it would be, I'm in a padded room all day. Let's face it. So why not glam it up a little? It's just for my mood. It was fine with just those stars and the lantern type things. I just stapled those in. There's a little voiceover recording light that's on in there.
Yep.
That doesn't give off much light though. And then right underneath the voiceover recording light, there's my little Zoom light, which is new because during the pandemic, after spending how many thousands of dollars on your audio, they all want to see you now. So I'm like, okay, I need something to illuminate my face so that they can see me. And so that's why that's there. A selfie light. I don't know what they call them. A selfie ring. But so that's why that's there.
Josh has a Juice Mode light wand. Or is that the stand? I don't remember which.
I have a light wand, but it has a plastic shopping bag over it to soften it.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't have a dimmer switch?
It does have a dimmer, but still it's just LED light with a kind of a clear plastic in front of it. So it actually just softens the skin. It's like a diffusion panel.
Josh is a photographer as one of his hobbies, so he's very attuned to the visual lighting, and he probably never likes mine because I've got harsh light from over there and shadows from over here and nothing to balance it out. I live in chaos.
Well, Josh, then you can tell me, is this too much light? Should I dim it more?
You have good soft light. No. Where it was. No, where it was.
Wait, up. Tell me when.
Too much. Good. No, up. Higher. Yep. That's it. Lower.
Too much.
Yep.
Okay, good. I'm going to remember that setting because a photographer told me.
So we should mention for our audio listeners that you can see all this. You don't have to wait for us to describe things at our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/@GoModPod. And all of our episodes are also recorded in video. Oh, Amy, so tell us, you also have a camera somewhere in your booth?
No, I do not. So that's why I'm not in there, actually. There's a clip back there. It's called iClip.
We see
I
it.
don't know if you can see it. I can clip my iPad to that. And if someone wants to see me, that's usually how they're going to do it.
Okay.
Or that light actually has a phone attachment to it. So if I need to use my phone in a pinch, some of the audio interfaces don't work with certain things. So you kind of have to be a jack of all trades and be like, well, I'll whip out the iPad, or I need my earbuds now because my mic's not working, whatever. So you just have to have this toolbox and be ready for anything. So that's why the clips are for both the iPad and the phone are in there if they want camera. Okay. So Dan knows all about that because something wasn't working and you actually were watching me through the glass.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, because you were at the station behind you. And you were able to just walk, like switch the mics and walk into the booth. You turned the
Yes.
camera slightly, I think, to get the booth
I
in
think
the
I did,
in
yeah.
the frame.
Dan mentioned the glass. I see the glass panel, but virtually everywhere else I look, there's either carpeting or Orlux foam.
So yeah, I don't know. I got a box of Orlex and just put it wherever there was a spot.
The booth itself, is it a Whisper booth?
It's a WhisperRoom.
Okay. So it's
4x4.
It's a 4x4 Whisper Room, and it has not just the standard acoustic treatment inside, but you also have at least 1 or 2 bass traps in the shot.
I do. Yeah. 2 bass traps. I used to have 4, but I felt a little claustrophobic.
Yep.
And I thought, let me just back off a little.
And we see
the only complaint I've gotten is I have one client who I have to put something over the pane of glass, and there's also a pane of glass on the door. So they could hear the windows and they didn't like it. So I do have these little Velcro blankets I put up when I record for them. So
Nice. And then you feel
You make do.
extremely claustrophobic because it's a blackout chamber. Kind of like that anechoic chamber I referenced in our last episode, which is an unsettling place to be because you can, over time, hear your heartbeat and the blood flow through your veins because there's no sound at all reflecting off of any surface in an anechoic chamber. That's what it's like being in a padded room without windows and with even a blanket over the one hard surface that is the stand for your script. The copy stand, that's the word. The music stand. Yeah, so we see you have a towel on the music stand, again, because it's metal, it's hard, it would reflect noise back. We don't want that.
So I'm told.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And then there's various cords, which I try to hide behind the Orlex, but you can see some of them. It's inevitable.
It looks very tidy. Let's move on to another image. Let's talk about another piece of gear. We want to hear more of the setup. So originally, you used to voice from outside the booth, but then you had a client who heard a UPS delivery, and so you got yourself a Whisper Room. Yeah. But you don't always need to use a Whisper Room because you have a very well acoustically treated space in a quiet environment. Yeah. And you have a primary workstation where you do a lot of your daily grind.
Right there behind me.
Right behind you there.
Yeah, you're kind of looking at it on the picture. Yeah.
And I notice you have not 1, but 2 different mics on booms over there. It looks like an RE20 and maybe an SM7.
It's a Shure. It could be an SM7.
I think it's a Shure SM7, the black one, and then the Electro Voice RE20, the good old industry standard of radio for countless years. When Josh and I were DJs back at WERS in Boston at Emerson College, I know I used an RE20 plenty of times, but they also switched over to the SM7 while I was there. And so I wound up doing the rest of my stint on Bluesology with an SM7. Josh, do you have any fond memories of those microphones?
The microphone smelled. Not the Shure. I didn't have the Shure, the previous one that you mentioned, would smell.
It would smell.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd forgotten about that. I too did some time in radio. So yes, that does happen.
It does.
Usually a coffee, so it's not terrible. But
Outside the booth, tell us what it's for, this station.
this station is where I do all my editing. I sort of made it I did make it like a standing desk because, it's supposed to sit. Sitting is bad.
Does it elevate when you want it to? It looks like it could go up and down.
No. It's really just some Target end table that happened to match the IKEA desk, and I plopped it on top, and I Velcroed everything to the bottom of it. So there's a USB hub down there. There's the router kind of plugs in down there. I have a external drive to do my backups down there. I try to be neat with the cables.
Yeah.
And hide them.
Why do you have microphones at this station?
I do a lot of telephony work on those mics. Anything that's going to be put into 8-bit, I'm not going to sit in a booth doing that. I like being out in the world. So, and I like the sound for that application.
Okay.
IVR, on hold, things like that.
I hadn't thought of that.
I believe Amy's suggesting that if it's going to wind up at 8K, it doesn't need the booth treatment because her room is treated for quality audio, just not the ultimate pristine movie quality audio.
Right. There you go.
And what
So,
headphones?
okay, so
Go ahead.
what headphones
What
are there?
headphones do you
Probably
use?
Sony's.
Those are AKG.
These are
Yeah.
AKG.
Are they?
And did
You're
you?
asking me and I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
did
okay.
you replace
We'll fill in
the
that
ear
blank
cups?
later.
I did. Wow, you are observant.
Mhm.
So after a couple of years, those ear pads, is that what you call them? They get worn out, and they were sort of like pleather, and they were starting to get all over my clothes, and Mom, you have black stuff all over you.
Uh-huh.
So I could only find these furry gray ones that fit, and ordered them on Amazon and put them on. So that's why they're gray, but they work.
My headphones are currently in that state of peeling apart as they get over time. And similar stories when my wife would go to pick up the girls at school when they were little. They'd be like, Mom, hey, you have headphone hair, because she'd been wearing headphones and it would be kind of dented in her hairstyle. But also those little bits of black would be around here in the neck and on the clothes. And you're like, what is this? Oh, that's just headphones. It's like the reverse of dandruff. Instead of white, it's like chunks of black pleather just all over you.
Yes. So at some point you have to, if you like the headphones, just replace the pads. Why not?
Get new, softer, non-pleather.
All good.
Now we're looking at some other equipment. We're looking at your audio rack where, as you've said, a lot of it is outdated or defunct technology underneath. But on top, we've got a nice Mackie Pro FX board.
Yes. Which was something that I switched to about 4 years ago. Before that, I had a Henry 6 mix, which was great broadcast quality, great codec. But I don't know why I switched. I just did. Sometimes you do that.
Sometimes you might want more inputs.
Yeah, I needed
more
I needed more
outputs.
inputs. So I had someone else come in, kind of set this up, and the thing on the right is for headphones. It's for volume control. The Sterling,
Yep.
which works really well. So that's part of the chain. You had the Phantom Power in a previous screen, and I need that for the Neumann. So that had to go into the chain too.
This is the Cloud Microphones Cloudlifter CL1 mic activator.
Mm-hmm. It's a Phantom Power, right? That's how the Neumann is plugged in. And I have it up high because I was getting this like a buzzing sound. It took me forever to figure out what was causing it, and it was just not grounded. It was when it was on that table, it was making that noise. So I just put it on the side of the rack there. It's a portable rack, so there's a kind of a handle. It's just resting on the handle.
Gotcha.
Really high.
You heard a noise. You isolated the source of the noise. You solved that by moving a piece of equipment.
Yes.
And again, this is a direct reference to our last episode where I discussed why we recorded a day later than we anticipated. It's because when I took my microphone that I was using up at this workstation down into the booth, all of a sudden I was hearing noise, and it wasn't a good noise. It was a ground loop hum that was created because the USB cable was too close to the power cable. And by separating the two, rewiring the booth, we were able to eliminate that noise. Amy's done the same thing here. She found a noise. She isolated the source of the noise, and she found a solution by separating two pieces, in this case, the surface of her desk from the Cloudlifter itself.
Absolutely right.
Audio engineering hacks on the fly. That's what you do with your setup. That's what we do with our setups anyways. What do you do to hack your setup? We want to know. Reach out to us. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and follow everything we do at Show Me Your Setup.
Yep, our website is gomodpod.com, and you'll find all the social links there. We are in the middle of talking to Amy Taylor Fernandez about her studio, and we really appreciate Amy coming in. We're not wrapping up yet, Amy, just interjecting. And we do want to encourage other folks, if this kind of thing excites you, and if you have a creative setup where you record something, you do video, you do photography, you consume media, whatever it might be, if you're interested and you'd like to share it with us, we'd love to see some photos, and we may even invite you on to talk about your setup if that's something you choose to do. Amy, I'm looking at your audio rack now. You just mentioned your portable rack that you have, and one of the items is Monster Power. Is this like a conditioner?
Okay. Monster Power. I can't say enough about this piece of equipment. It's the only actually functioning, well, it's the only piece on there that I use anymore. The top one is a Telly Extreme, which was great when ISDN ruled the world. And the service became too expensive. I asked all my agents, and it was unanimously get rid of it. They all use Source Connect, IPDTL, other ways of connecting. So I don't need it anymore. And then the one on the bottom is a Telos One phone patch, which still works, but I don't have my landline anymore. I have an IPDTL number that I use when people want to call in. So I don't use that anymore. The Monster Power, however, all the big stuff is connected to it in the back. It's a regulator. So that was, regulating the electricity. And we had a big storm. The neutral snapped off my house. A million things got fried in my house, including my office, but everything plugged into that Monster Power was safe. The Monster Power thing was smoking. It was black. It was ruined. The company just sent me a new one.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Here you go. So totally worth it. Anything that you don't want to get fried, plug it in the back of that, and hopefully it'll be safe. It was for me. So gotta love that Monster Power.
Your MacBook Pro is probably something that's plugged right into that.
Yeah, the MacBook Pro it's just Ethernet cable. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about your internet. You're now not using a landline, ISDN line. How much internet do you need at home? Like, what is your speed? Do you know?
I get the business package. It's like, I think if so, there's 5 tiers. I get like the 4th one. I don't get.
But you're over 1 gig probably.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think so.
They had to do a big install probably.
I ordered it and I was checking and it wasn't what I was paying for. And I called them a few times and then there was a fan outside and they put something, I don't know.
Right on the pole probably, yeah.
So technical. They put it right on the pole. Yep. I don't know what it is. But it's great because when we do Source Connect, when we do IPDTL sessions, there's a lot less dropouts than Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi is usually great, but I don't chance it with big clients. Like, you just don't want to look bad. Oh, well, he dropped because I'm only on Wi-Fi.
So your computer is connected through Ethernet. You've got a reliable internet connection. What about the horsepower on the computer? Like, what do you do besides audio editing that takes the horsepower? Why choose a MacBook Pro? That's kind of a higher end Mac, isn't it?
I think so. We've always had Macs. I like the software. I use Twisted Wave, and I don't think they make that for PC yet. Maybe they do. Your first question was...
Why do you need so much power? Horsepower?
Yeah, what is more intensive, like, computing that you do? Do you have to do any multi-track editing, or is it just kind of this waveform editing?
I don't generally do multi-track editing, no. Twisted Wave is one file. But sometimes, they're 45-minute files, and I've got to upload them, several of those a day. It's lightning fast.
Okay.
And, of course, the client wants it yesterday, so... You leave the room, you come back, and it's uploaded.
Good.
So that's as much as I do, but I still think it warrants getting the high speed internet.
You want high performance equipment so you can deliver high performance audio quickly, rapidly, without fail, reliably, all the time. Makes sense.
Yes. Which we know is impossible to be,
But you can line your ducks up.
A lot of unforeseen stuff that happens, right?
True. But good organization, good cable management, quality equipment all lends itself to a proper product, an ideal waveform.
Oh, underneath the desk, you'll notice that my power strips are on top of little, child step stools and things like that, because they were giving me problems too.
Oh.
Anything that was on the floor that
Okay, quick question.
could cause a buzz.
Is that a cement slab underneath?
It's a cement slab with vinyl tile.
Yeah, but it's a cement slab. Okay, that's
a good.
Sounds
He's good. He's good.
It's not one way or the other. I've found out in my garage, if there's audio equipment placed on the floor, you can actually feel the electricity on the outside of the case, because the way grounding works, Electricity goes to ground. There's a wire that goes into the ground. Your cement has rebar in it. It's on the same ground. I think somehow there's a little connection between the cement and the grounding, such that electrical equipment touching the cement might have a little extra zzz going on.
Makes sense.
And this is all just hypothetical stuff from personal experience. I'm seeing the table sitting on metal legs that are sitting on vinyl or linoleum or something, but on cement. And I just wonder if it's all, maybe if the desk itself was put on like 4 hockey pucks, well, 6 maybe, those might isolate the desk and all the electronics that are on it so that if you put the Cloudlifter back on the desk, it wouldn't zzz anymore. I don't know. I'm just theorizing here. But it's worth playing.
I could try that. That's a cheap thing to try.
Right?
For sure. Yeah.
Amy,
Thank
I'm
you,
noticing
Dan.
I'm noticing the trophies. What are they?
Oh, okay. So the Telly Awards. They're Telly Awards for some medical narration. One of them is for medical narration. One of them is for some non-broadcast branding stuff.
Nice.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What are Telly Awards?
It's telecommunication, it's television, it's now web. It's, you guys could probably win one, for a podcast. Who knows? Bunch of stuff. Check them out.
Okay. Who knows? Hi, I'm Dan. This is Josh. We're with Amy Taylor Fernandez, the Telly Award-winning voiceover artist. Well, that's a good question. Do you call yourself a voiceoverist, a voiceover artist, a voice talent? The voice?
Voice talent, voiceover artist. I don't use voiceoverist. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It doesn't roll off my tongue.
No.
Just voice talent. Yeah.
Okay.
We should ask you about your range. What are some of the different projects that you work on professionally?
I think one of the key things to know about me is that I do Spanish and English voiceovers. So clients love that. If they've got something in English they need in Spanish, I do the translation, I do the voicing. So that's kind of a one-stop shop for them. And that could be anything. That could be commercials. That could be telephony. That could be e-learning. I've been doing a lot of e-learning lately, a lot of explainer videos, non-broadcast stuff, bread and butter stuff. Commercials are great. I love them. I'll do them. But e-learning is kind of where I'm falling into. That and automotive. I don't know. Yeah, everything kind of ebbs and flows, but that's kind of where I'm at right now.
I'm wondering what...
And I would love to do cartoons, but I mean, so does everybody else.
What would an introduction to our show in Spanish sound like, Amy?
Yeah. Show me your setup. How does that translate?
Ensenjame tu equipo. That's one way to say it.
Okay.
Like, show me your equipment.
Yep.
Your
Okay.
setup really, it doesn't have the same idiomatic expression.
All right, now
but
teach us how to say it in Spanish.
Enséñame su equipo.
Enséñame su equipo.
That's right.
Enséñame su equipo. Hola, estamos Dan. No? How would I say, hi, I'm Dan, this is Josh, and this is Show Me Your Setup?
Hola, yo soy Dan. Él es Josh.
Hola, yo soy Dan, él es Josh. Y
Ella es Amy Taylor Fernandez.
Amy Taylor Fernandez. Ella es. Ella. Yeah, I don't speak
accent.
any Spanish, but I can emulate.
And you can edit Spanish. Like, it amazes me how many people I run into. They don't speak a lick of Spanish, but I'll go back and I'll say, well, the pickup was right. Oh, I know where it was.
Yeah.
Okay. It's amazing. You guys can do that.
It's a weird thing, but after you work with any given language for enough time, you start to pick up on nuances, especially if you work a lot in telephony speech, like I might, you hear the same phrases over and over and over again, so much so that when somebody misreads something, even in a different language, you pick up on it. You're like, I think you, and they're like, oh yeah, do you speak? I'm like, no, but I hear the language pretty well.
What's the most interesting non-English VO you've ever worked on or edited?
The most interesting non-English language to have edited?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I want to say Native American Navajo is probably one of the most fascinating to work
Very
with.
cool.
There's a breathing pattern that's completely different than Western and Eastern languages. Not completely different than Eastern languages, but different than Western languages, for sure. The exhalation is part of the speech in a way that just doesn't
so you
happen in
don't
English.
Deep-breath those.
No, no,
Take
not
the
so
breaths
much.
out.
Nope. No, there's certain
Part of the
languages
word.
we avoid messing with the breathing too much and the pacing, because some languages are pace and volume dependent as well.
Very cool. So, question for you guys: Would you say you like to hear no breaths whatsoever, or do you leave in the smaller, more natural breaths? Because let's face it, some copy is written where you've got to breathe in somewhere in that baby because it's like
Yep.
not written for a human to to say it. The more I take out, the more I feel like I sound like an AI.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm editing myself,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds choppy. So I would love to know your opinion on how much breath to leave in. If leave it all in, take it all out.
On a
What do you
scale
think?
from breathy to breathless, we're going to go down the line, starting with podcast as the breathiest of all. We don't take out the breaths in podcast because this is real life stuff. People breathe. At first, I wanted to remove all the breaths, especially because I breathe really heavily on microphone when I'm talking really close to the mic. And I don't want everyone to hear that. But the thing is, people do breathe. When you listen
That's
to
your
radio,
energy.
you always hear
That's
the
your
breathing.
personality.
That's part of who you are.
Right.
Now, when it comes to telephony speech, depending on the nature of the recording, generally I'll go for almost virtually breathless because after a lot of practice, I've learned how to squeeze down the breaths as I'm removing them to make it flow naturally. And
Right.
you don't want to hear that jarring breath in the middle necessarily of a list of options while you're waiting on the phone.
Right. Right.
And somewhere in the
Agreed.
middle would be, commercial reads. It really depends. But as you said, commercial copy is usually written about 45 seconds of copy to fit into a 30-second slot. So not only do you have to voice it extra fast, you take short breaths wherever you have to, but those breaths have to come out because you don't have enough time. And sometimes even as fast as you read, it's not fast enough, and that's going to be digitally compressed even more. So yeah, breathless again,
favorite.
probably in commercial.
I wanted to take a stab at answering that too,
Yes,
Amy.
please.
I don't need any of our voice talents to try to decrease the volume of their breaths or try to take a shorter breath. For the other side of the business, marketing messages, all those breaths are going to come out. The easier I can see them in the waveform, the easier it is for me to chop them out. So I'd say
Nice.
breathe
Breathe freely.
freely if it's
Love
you
it.
and if it's for us. Yes.
Okay. Good to know.
Amy, how would you like people to interact with you, if any interaction, when this episode comes out?
They can contact me through my website, which is amytaylorfernandez.com. And there's a little contact me form on the bottom, and I'd be happy to answer any questions they have.
Okay.
And that includes just audio setup and video setup aficionados who are curious about
Sure.
particular pieces of gear and your experience with them.
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely. I'll try to answer the best I can. Can I ask one question?
You can ask a
though?
million questions.
Yeah.
Because Dan alluded to something that happened to you, Josh, I believe, when you tried to put knobs or something underneath a desk and something with a toddler. And
Yeah.
he said, we'll save it for the
Oh,
show.
I wanted
So
to bring
now-
that up.
Hey,
you've piqued my interest.
Amy,
yeah,
we've
it's-
asked you a lot of questions about your studio and your setup. Do you have any questions about our studio or our setups?
Yes, Josh. I understand you also like a neat setting and try to hide cables. Is that correct?
Yeah. Amy just mentioned my USB audio interface, which I was just going to throw back at Amy because really quickly, Amy's mixer is also a USB digital mixer. So you don't need a separate USB interface. Is that right? Okay.
That's right. That's right.
All right. I just mounted my USB device under my desk. And as Dan has mentioned it to me, Josh, I don't know why you're doing that. First of all, you're losing space because I'm tall and I have knees and legs, Luckily, I've got wide desk space, 2 file cabinets under each side of the desk, but 4 feet of room maybe in between. So I'm good. But yeah, my 2-year-old comes in and adjusts the audio interface dials. And Dan, the other day I heard a giant, and it was because I had speakers on and the mic was basically all the way up. Mic
Yeah.
input.
You mean you
Probably
walked into the
scared-
room and it was just
Yeah.
doing that
Scared 'em.
because she'd done that.
Yeah.
That's fun stuff.
Been there, done that. Gotta love it.
I think when my
Well, thank you,
daughters were
guys.
that age, we had this little tiny pink microphone that had the 3.5 millimeter plug on it. You could plug it into, various devices, but they would walk around. Maggie in particular, the back door in the kitchen had a couple of little holes in it that were just the right size. So she'd walk down there, plug the microphone into the back door and just record into the radiator like, because,
That's
she saw her
adorable.
mother go into a closet and voice for a living.
Of course.
She knew that I worked with audio all day long. We always gave her a microphone. I remember Bertie wanted a keyboard, a typewriter key, like a computer keyboard. So we had one that was broken. I ripped the cord out of the back of it and I gave it to her, and she'd run around and she'd sit down in front of any flat screen and just start typing on her keyboard.
That's adorable.
Kids at that age, they're so much fun.
Yeah. And did they end up going into audio careers, or
So
are they still young?
Maggie just finished her freshman year at Emerson College, where she's studying media production and film and works in the digital media production lab. And Bertie is going to attend Emerson in the fall to study photography and also probably film. So yeah, they kind of
Well,
did.
see, it's in their veins. That's awesome.
Yeah, I guess so. It's weird. It's only weird because my wife and I met at Emerson College, and we love Emerson College. We never thought our kids would go there. We never thought they'd go anywhere in particular. We just thought they'd go where they wanted to go. And the fact that they both chose that as their primary school and that they got in, mind blown.
Awesome. That's great. Congratulations to them.
Thanks. I will pass that along. Well, actually, I won't have to
All right.
because Maggie is a fan of the show. She'll see this and she'll be like, yeah, that's me.
Go, Maggie.
Amy, thank you for the prep you did for us. Thanks for sending us photos, and thank you for letting people into your personal and professional space. It's a really nice, intimate space, especially the booth that you set up. Thank you for allowing people in.
Well, and
Well,
also,
thanks for having me. It was a blast. I knew it would be.
I also want to say thank you for appreciating our show in the past, for appreciating the Recordin box, and for making your own Recordin box and using it for this episode. Again, mind blown. Like, who watches a podcast episode and says, I'm going to make one of those, and then makes one and then comes on the show and shows it to us and uses it to record the entire show? It's just, I'm just, wow.
I'm a nerd.
I think we all are. That's why we're doing
So are we?
this.
Yep. You're-
Audio nerds unite.
So,
Well, thanks, guys. That was so fun.
I'm Dan. This is Josh. I don't remember how to say any of it in Spanish, or I would.
Dan, I love to see your reaction to her Recordin box, because that's something that you came up with. Like, is that right? Is the Recordin box somewhat of an original idea of yours? Oh,
Not
okay.
at all, Josh. Thanks for asking. The Recordin box that we made was actually modeled after one Mandy made years ago, and she put a blog out about it. This is over 10 years ago. And it reminds me of something that I wanted to tell Amy about packing the Recordin box for travel, which is if you put the Orlex foam in one of those space saver bags, the vacuum space saver bags that you can buy, at least you used to be able to buy. Basically, it's a huge Ziploc bag. Well, then you roll the whole thing up and seal it, and it's compressed, and it's easier to pack for travel. So if you're going to travel with your Recordin box and you want to put it in a suitcase and it seems too squishy and big, put all the foam into a space saver vacuum seal bag, roll that sucker up tight, seal it up, it'll fit better. Recordin box. So no, it wasn't an original idea by me. In fact, countless people have done similar things. The most famous version I know of is the Harlan Hogan Portabooth, which is a commercial product you can buy. There are simple versions and more expanded versions. But yeah, the name Recordin box is something that you and I came up with, but the concept of a portable box for the microphone is not one that's original to me. We're just spreading the word.
How about housing it in the IKEA storage unit?
Again, that literally was the one that Mandy bought for recording. That's also the reason that we have the Centrance MicPort Pro. That's upside down. Yeah, there. So the Centrance MicPort Pro will turn any microphone into a USB interface because, I mean, that's what it is. It's a USB-A to MicPort Pro.
You seem proud and humbled that Amy had watched some of our episodes and really taken an interest and then built her own so that it was ready to show on this episode.
I was super excited that she was excited about it and that she wanted one in the first place. And that's basically what got the communication between us to get her on the show going. She said, hey, I was just at a conference and I could really use a recording box. And I was like, hey, speaking of, recording box, and you should come on our show. And she said, yeah. I liked how excited she was to spring the surprise on us. And I'm glad that we got all of that recorded because I hit record right off the bat. Always hit record before you want to record, or you might miss the part. We used to have this voice talent that would come into the studios at Marketing Messages, and every time he came in, he had a fresh joke. It didn't matter if he came in every day of the week or just once a month, he had a new joke. And it was great because they were funny. They were generally very clean and safe and appropriate for all audiences. And so, this guy comes in and he's there to do a job for you. And first thing he does is tell a joke and everyone's laughing and smiling. And then he's on mic and he's recording with his persona and he's out the door. He's like a one-take wonder. It was always pure gold. Loved working with the guy. And the reason I bring all that up is if I'd hit record when he walked in the room, I'd have had that joke every time. But usually it's like he'd walk in, he'd hit the joke, we'd all laugh, we'd hit record. What was that joke again? So record when people arrive.
Absolutely.
You get the good stuff.
Once again, I am Josh. Dan is here. We are the hosts of Show Me Your Setup. We are a ModPod podcast and a video series on YouTube. What is ModPod? So at ModPod, Dan and I and the rest of our team make branded podcasts for business. And these are business-centric podcasts where a company has a goal, an agenda, something they want to promote. Maybe they want to generate a community. So at ModPod, we help companies conceive, plan, and record their podcasts. And we do all the editing. We help them develop and we provide artwork for their podcasts.
Your company brand has a vision. You know the vision of your company brand. You want to engage with a greater audience through this ever-growing medium called podcast, but you're not sure how. ModPod knows how. What we're going to do is we're going to help you get your branded business podcast out there. We're going to help you record it. We're going to start before that even though. We're going to help you with your series conception. We're going to help you develop an episode plan. We're going to have you develop a series plan with all of the episodes. We're going to help you with our creative services. We're going to help you find the right artwork, the right music. Maybe your show is going to have an intro by a professional voice talent. We're going to get you covered in that aspect as well. We have all these services available. And you can pick and choose which services are optimal for you. Maybe you've already done podcast recording. You don't need our studio prep services. Maybe you're very experienced with your podcast, but you're flat out of time for the editing. We can produce your podcast for you. Maybe you've gone as far as producing your own podcast, but how do you distribute it? What platforms do you put it on? We're experts in that as well. I think that's what you're suggesting, Josh.
If any of this is an interest to you, just visit us at gomodpod.com. Schedule a time for a meeting. Just pick up the phone, send an email. Jim Gibitowski would absolutely love to speak to you. He would be delighted to speak to you. What we can offer and see if it's a good fit. Dan and I would also love for you to subscribe to our show. And you can subscribe to the audio version or you can subscribe to the video version. The audio version
or both.
Yeah. The easiest way to subscribe to the audio version is to visit our show website at gomodpod.com/showmeyoursetup with dashes. And the easiest way to subscribe to our video version is to go to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@gomodpod. Just hit the subscribe button. We would also love your comments. We'd love your comments under our YouTube videos. We also post teaser content to Facebook, Twitter. Dan, why don't you tell people about that type of content? Because you're intimately involved in it.
So one thing I'll do after we've made a new episode is I'll jump back in and I'll find little snippets, little tidbits of speech that maybe capture a poignant moment or are a teaser to an upcoming event, I will make an audiogram of those, which we can use liberally in our social media feed. I put it on the YouTube channel because you can never have too much YouTube content. And once again, that's at GoModPod if you're in the YouTube realm. So yeah, we'll make audiograms, and they're fun. They're little visual blurbs with the words right on there, so even if you're not listening, you can read along. They're designed to capture the attention of somebody who's scrolling through their media feed and maybe tune them into our episode or our podcast. If you subscribe, you'll know before others what the upcoming events are because you'll get the audiogram feed directly. You'll get a bing or something. I don't know. But I do know when a new episode is released for Show Me Your Setup, I get a little buzz on my phone. I look down, I see the icon, I say, hey, I've got some content to listen to while I'm mowing the lawn. Because that's what I like to do. I like to listen to podcasts while I mow the lawn. How do you listen to your podcasts? What's your favorite podcast catcher?
Pocket Casts for Android.
Pocket Casts.
Yeah. You can search Show Me Your Setup within Pocket Casts and subscribe right there. And you can subscribe to our show in whatever way that you consume your podcasts.
If you enjoy our series and would like a transcript, just ask.
Yep.
We have transcripts available. In fact, I'm wondering, do people want a link somewhere for transcripts? Should we put it on the webpage? I think we should, but I'm polling the people because I like to ask questions. What do you think? Do you want transcripts for every podcast?
People whose first language is not English may benefit from a written English transcript that they can follow along with, or they could even drop into a translator service like Google Translate to convert it into their own language. People that are deaf or hard of hearing, like my wife, can follow along a lot better with a transcript and are far more likely to give a podcast a shot if there's a transcript. If you'd like closed captions, those are available in YouTube. YouTube does a really good job of that. Just turn the captions on within the YouTube interface.
Hola, yo soy Dan, él es Josh y ella es Amy Taylor Fernandez. Bienvenido a Ensenjame su equipo.